Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Table Podcast. I'm Nick Hand. I don't know where you're at, but I hope life is treating you good. If you like this podcast, tell your friends, like, subscribe, rate, review. Somebody tell somebody. We got a good thing going on here, and I know you enjoy the podcast. I certainly do, the conversations that we've been having. Today on the podcast, my buddy Joe Moeller. He's a National Murrow Award-winning morning news anchor and reporter with a demonstrated history of working in the broadcast and communication industry. And it's a great conversation. We talk about a lot of different things, and his role kind of gives you an inside look into what it's like to be in his industry. I think what's fascinating about hearing people in so many different lines of work, although you see that our work is diverse, a lot of the themes and how our world is connected is so incredibly kind of astounding to think about. And so I think you're going to see that today. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Joe.
First the barricade, now the table.
So how are you getting up that early every single day? Don't you feel like you don't have a life?
Yeah. All the time.
I feel like how do you do that?
Let me tell you, I was just having this conversation with somebody not too long ago. After these hours, that's my third year doing it. Mm-hmm. It takes a toll on you. Like it's intense, and on the weekends you feel like you don't have a life. And, but I mean, it is what it is.
Like, are people able to have a social life, or are you just friends with whoever you work with?
You know, I am friends with people that I work with, but it's not one of those things where, I mean, previously I'd go out more, but I feel like now I'm a little older that, I don't know, I think it's a different thing now.
Different mindset.
Yeah, and I still have a bunch of friends back home, but trying to go home a lot gets harder and harder. Yeah. Especially now that I have a dog, I just kind of lay back.
It's like your baby?
It is my baby, literally my baby.
Does your dog have an Instagram?
Yes.
What is your dog's Instagram?
Bodie Moeller. Everybody follow him.
Hey, we have another Is Louie in here? Where'd she go? Somebody needs to he needs to see Louie.
Is it a dog?
Oh, dude, is it a dog?
I need to see this.
It's my little niece.
Oh, really?
Puppy. Yeah. It's my brother's daughter.
No, I'm telling you, this. I'm obsessed. My girlfriend's like more obsessed than I am. It's their first dog, and so she's...
Okay, but you did something cool because I was actually telling somebody about it. When you got your dog trained, you sent it off to somebody basically to train it, right?
Yeah,
is this how it works?
There's a guy here in town. I sent him there for 2 weeks. And so he was...
This is like a brilliant idea, by the way.
Well, because if you have had a German Shepherd before, you know they're a pain.
Dude, if you had a dog before, you know they're a pain.
Yeah. But
like,
German
especially
Shepherds,
training.
I'm telling you, German Shepherd's a little crazy.
Really?
Because if they're not trained, they own you.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend's 5'2" and like not even 100 pounds. She'll get mad at me if I say how much she weighs. And so... With
you know how much she weighs?
Well, I do, because every time I say it, she's like, I don't weigh that much.
I don't weigh that much.
Exactly. No, but if you see her trying to walk this big dog and they pull you down the street, and then the dog walks by and barks, and so you kind of have to have these dogs trained. Yeah. If you don't, a lot of people don't, and that's why so many of them end up in the shelter.
But German Shepherds are very intelligent dogs.
Oh, they're too smart.
It's what the police use. I mean, that's like...
Well, my dog was playing hide and seek yesterday, so I mean, I don't know other dog that does that.
Hide and seek?
Yeah, in the bushes. He's running in, running out.
And he like knows what he's doing?
Yeah, and the trainer messaged me, that kind of just shows you how smart he is. And I'm like, but he's opened cabinets, he's opened the baby gates, he's getting into room handles he's turned. And so it's kind of the point where it's a little scary.
Yeah.
You don't think these things through. And
how human do you think dogs are?
I think...
Like, do you think they have consciousness?
Yeah. Of course.
Full consciousness?
Because they sit there and they stare at you, and I'm like, oh, what is he thinking? Or they're watching me do something.
Have you figured it out yet?
They watch me. He watched me. That's how he got underneath the sink, pulled the dishwashing tube out twice because he saw me down there. Learned how to open it. So I fixed it. The next day, he did it again.
Really?
So they watch you and they figure it out. And German Shepherds are pretty
not
smart.
all dogs are like that, though.
No, not all.
Some dogs,
not
man.
all. Not all. Not at all.
Not that smart.
Yeah.
But you sent the dog away. So the guy takes the dog for how long? 2 weeks?
Yeah. So
you don't see the dog for 2 weeks?
No.
And
that was hard. My girlfriend was like about to cry.
It's your baby.
Yeah. So, I mean, the dog was trained as a puppy. Like I did the whole social thing because a lot of German Shepherds aren't social. So, I mean, he had little puppy classes and everything. But I really wanted him to be like a well-trained dog. And I wanted him to be able to go out in public and be social, be off the leash and not have to worry about him, be friendly with dogs. And because a lot of German Shepherds aren't. So, I sent him away 2 weeks. This guy here in town, Bo, He's really cool, Bo Flores.
And that's what he
Shout out
does.
to him.
You
That's what he
got
does.
her here. Here,
Oh,
bring.
here.
This is Louie. Louie, meet
Oh
Joe.
my
She's gonna come
gosh.
visit. If you're watching the podcast, you're gonna see her make her appearance. Here you go. Take her. There she is.
She's so small.
Right?
Look at her. She's like all
Look how
scared up.
terrified
She's
she
scared right
looks.
now.
Joe, you're scaring her. You gotta
I've
hold her
never-
close.
I've never had a dog this little.
Really?
No. Every dog I've ever
You
had.
don't.
is
You like don't even know how to handle her.
no,
It's like
when someone hands me a cat, I'm like,
I don't know what to do with
what do
this.
I do with this little thing?
This is the kind of dog that doesn't need training, though. You know what I
No.
mean?
It saves you a lot of money.
pre-trained.
Yeah, trust me.
Pre-trained dogs.
It's not the dog that costs you money; it's what they do and
Yeah.
what you have to do to them,
Yeah.
and everything like that.
That's
yeah,
true.
for sure. See, I feel like I'm holding your dog very awkwardly, so you can totally. Take
You
her
are
back.
holding the dog.
You can totally take her back. Yeah. Here.
He can't handle it. He's uncomfortable. It's like one of those news moments where you have the animals on TV, right?
Oh yeah. I hate
How do you
those.
how do you?
I don't hate
handle those?
them, but I just if there's a cat, I can't
I
do
don't
it.
hate them. You
I
can't do it.
I hand it off because I'm not.
You seen that one? You seen that one news blooper where the like reptile? You probably only watch news bloopers, right? Since
I
you're
watch a lot of news.
newscaster.
Oh, when you're bored,
And you only
on
watch
YouTube?
Anchorman. Is that your favorite movie too?
Nah, I do want to watch that again though. I just thought about it the other day.
It is a good movie.
It's a great movie.
News bloopers are hilarious though.
Yeah, no, they're good.
What's been your funniest on-air moment?
Oof. A lot of people ask me that, but it's hard to like pinpoint one.
Have you had any that you just like? I mean,
I feel like they happen every day on our show because our show's such a mess, but we love
your
it.
show is hilarious.
It's like a mess. It's like a organized chaos
Uh-huh.
sort of thing. And my co-anchor and I just have like the best chemistry. And
Yeah.
I feel like every day there's something.
Yeah.
I can list a couple things from today that I just couldn't stop laughing.
Do you
about.
ever like lose control
Yeah.
on air and laugh on air?
Yeah. All
You
the
do?
time. Oh, I almost did it today. It was this close. My
Why?
stomach was like tensed up and I'm like trying to hold it in. Because they put like co-anchor up on camera when she wasn't supposed to be and she didn't know what to do. And I think it's funny when she messes up, but when I mess up, it's not funny.
So then you just hold it together.
Oh my God. Sometimes I don't though. You just start laughing and you feel bad because you're talking about someone who died or something like that. And you just start laughing.
What's your biggest mess up that you remember?
Oh, there was this one time I was live in Merced because I reported before I was on
Mm-hmm.
the desk and they tossed to me and I'm like, oh, I don't even know what I'm saying. In my mind, I'm like, what am I doing here? And I just paused and I just rambled and I just stood there and they had to take my story because I wasn't talking.
So, you,
And I'm
then
just
they
standing
cut
there
away
like,
from you? Those are the best.
and I'm like, why am I in Merced?
Hey, what's the one, Drew, you sent me the other day of the lady with she's like, it's like something make a doo-doo. Where is it? Pull it up. Play it right now. Do you know? Yeah, do you know which one it is? Have you seen this one?
I think so. It's
Dude.
funny because you watch those bloopers and like,
Is it too close to home?
no, I think it's funny. There, you meet. My girlfriend's been on one of them too because she was live somewhere and a sprinkler went off behind her and she kind of just jumped and she falls into the camera almost. A lot of people you like kind of know some of them because TV is such a small industry. When you move around, people jump different places, and so it's funny when you see somebody on there.
Yeah, that you know.
I got to show you some funny ones from the
Really?
station I interned at. You
There's
will
some good ones.
die laughing. Like
The funniest is to me like when there's names involved.
and the
But
wrong names.
Wrong names, ridiculous names, hard to pronounce
Have
names.
you seen the one from LA?
Which one?
Can I say it here?
Yeah, you can say it here.
His name, he was like a 10-year-old boy. His name was Hugh Janus. And they read it on air.
But that's not his name. Somebody's
No.
screwing with
and he
him,
does
right?
birthday shout outs. He's like, happy 10th birthday to Hugh Janus. And everyone just died. I have to show you this video. You will die laughing.
So does somebody get fired when that happens, or does everybody
No,
just think
I mean,
it's funny?
it's funny.
I mean, somebody in the
think about it.
control room is screwing
If it
around
happened
with you, right?
to somebody on our station,
Oh,
we probably think it's
God.
funny. Some other station here in town,
Yeah.
they might be like, "Oh, you're suspended, you're in trouble." But I mean, come on. Yeah,
Does
no, those
that
are the
stuff
best
really
ones.
happen though? Like like the Anchorman premise where whatever's on prompter, like you read. Is there ever been stuff?
Oh yeah, it
on-
happened to me today. Like,
Really?
Yeah, because we have a new producer, and there's when you read the prompter, it has to tell you when a story is going to roll, but they miss the part in there where you're supposed to stop and the story starts going. And so I'm reading, and I'm like, oh,
You just
I'm
have to
supposed to be
stop.
reading that.
You just
Yeah,
stop.
because I mean, you try to read it, but then in my mind, I'm like, this isn't what I'm supposed to be reading. So you just stop and you look dumb. And what sucks is people at home don't know.
I think it's hilarious.
difference?
Every time I see it, I just die laughing. That's the time. That's
You-
the time that the news becomes even that much more interesting.
You need to
me.
watch our 11 o'clock show because we're so tired.
at night
No, in the morning.
or in the morning.
11 to 12.
Okay,
And
so it's like that awkward hour where it's not morning, but it's not like
yeah. Well, for us, it's like
Who watches that?
almost dinner
Stay
time.
at home like moms?
Yeah.
Is that your
Well,
audience?
what's
What
weird
your
is
audience?
actually
Stay at home dads.
people will be out at restaurants or coffee places, and it'll be on there.
Okay.
And so it's just, I don't know. It comes on after the Today Show.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a filler show sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's a good time. I mean, if I could just do that show and then later on, it'd be cool.
yeah.
But you don't have to get up as early.
You're like tired. Just
Oh,
trying
we're
to
so
get-
tired. And then when something funny, we just get like the laugh attack, and you just can't stop.
Do you guys have like fans?
Yeah, I mean, there's people who are religiously watch our show.
Really?
Oh yeah, and who will write us in, or if we crack a joke on air, they'll write on our Facebook page or tweet at us or
I
something.
feel like they know you.
Oh yeah. There's a couple of those for sure, but you go in public and people will stop you and say hi, especially if we're
What
all
do they
together
say
at
to
an
you?
event. Oh, we watch you every morning.
You're the news. Do they know you by name?
You do the news, right?
You do
That's
the
you?
news.
You do the news?
right?
I think so.
Wait, I think I know you. Do you do the news?
I think I do the news. Or it's the best part. It's like, hey, are you from Channel 30, right?
Yeah.
For sure. No, that's
so,
me.
could you, so insulting, right? Like,
Well, I mean, whatever. I'm not going to sit and correct people. I just say, thanks for watching.
did you find the clip, dude? Tell me you see this one. This one.
Hundreds gathered today to say their final goodbyes to this fallen Louisville police officer,
think I
D.D. Mega Doodoo.
DD Mega Doodoo, though. That is not how the name even looks.
No.
What is it? Men get.
I will give her-
What would you say?
I will-
Would you say Mega Doodoo?
Well, so in a prompter, it should be men slash. Okay. Men,
Wait. So in prompter,
men-
they do the pronunciation by splitting.
I mean,
it
how
up.
would you say that? If you just say you never read it before.
Okay, ready? I would be like Deidre Mengadot.
Mengadot.
Mengadot,
What if it's
maybe.
Mengadot?
But I wouldn't have gone for Mega Doodoo.
No.
I probably gonna
That
leave
was a
that
big
one
mess
out.
up.
That was just she's just rolling with whatever was off the top of her tongue.
Oh, and I'm sure people talk when they see you on the streets. Hey, Mengadoo girl. And
It's what you get known for.
it's what, I mean, look at this. This is online.
It's
And what
the
you say on
best,
air is
though.
online forever.
Nothing can make me laugh like news bloopers.
No, this is, no.
What's your favorite?
See, she messed up, but see, the thing was,
What?
you don't know if it was like her fault or if it was like
Oh,
the
I'm
prompter.
definitely blaming the word Mega Doodoo came
No,
out of her mouth.
I get that.
She is to blame.
I get that, but when you, I feel for her because when you see some names in the prompter, you're like, oh,
like you, yeah. Well, yeah.
what?
Which way are we taking this?
Sometimes when nobody knows the name, you just kind of act like you know and
Yeah.
you just say it.
I'm
I
sure.
mean, she-
What
she-
about like people that are guest spotting on your show? Like, I'm sure you don't know all of them,
No,
right?
and
So
that's
you're
the
just-
hardest part.
and you
got
got
to
to act like you kind of do.
And you're like, oh,
What was your name again? Where are you from?
and I've done that before. But tell us what your name and where you're from, and
Yeah.
that kind of saves you a little bit. But sometimes you try to remember other names, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Did you take a lot of improv classes?
no.
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 I feel like a lot of what you have to do is improv, like in the sense of your transitions and things like that, or is all that scripted?
Oh no, you mean from like
Like, I mean, you got the greats, the ones that are like, okay, you're really good at what you do. I feel like they have a spontaneity about them that they're able to think on their toes.
Yeah.
When things don't go right, they can just spin it, and you don't even know. You don't know. Are you reading? Are you not reading? Was that meant to happen? Was that not meant to happen?
the good ones, you will never be able to tell the difference.
Right.
But as far as I mean, I didn't take improv classes or anything like that, but I think it all comes with experience, and I think that a good anchor is also a good reporter who's good at ad-libbing, who's good at this or that. I mean, it all kind of goes together in a weird way, and so I think when you have that practice out live at a fair, I mean, you're ad-libbing the whole. There's no prompter out there.
Right.
So when you have that experience of interviewing someone out in the field or live on air, it kind of just translates into sitting on a couch and talking to them there, or if it translates from interviewing a police officer because you're just ad-libbing it, especially if you're on camera doing it
Right.
live. I mean, you just got to go with it, and it comes with experience. I mean, my first year doing that, I probably would have been horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm great now, but it's
What,
better than my first year.
What you would be horrible at? What?
Just like going live and trying to do an interview. I mean, you
Just
don't-
going for it.
You slowly kind of work your way up to that in TV news. I mean, in college, some people learn it there too, but I mean, some people are better than others.
For sure, some people are better than others,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
feel like too, you can tell like when people are. It's the tough thing I think about watching newscasters when they're asking questions. Sometimes it seems like they're asking their question, but they're not listening to the answer. Have you noticed this?
Oh yeah, there's specific
Just
people.
onto them because they're. What I would imagine you also have people in your ear telling you what's next, right? It's hard to be to me, this is the challenge with like soundbite media, right? That's why I think that like podcast forums and forums that are a little bit more long form, not as edited, will continue to grow and expand because you're able to get context and there's somewhat of a genuine connection that you're able to establish with your viewer, with your audience, with your listener. That's not impossible, but it's very difficult to curate and make happen within produced television. It seems, just for the mere fact that you're on a time constraint, right? And you have the next thing coming next, and we can't spend too long on this, and we got to wrap it up. It's hard to. Is it difficult to have those? Authentic connections, right? I mean, you're not.
I mean, the thing is with news and different time frames of the day. I mean, during the morning, you're able to show your personality a little more than at 5, 6, and 7 p.m. when people expect a stiff newscaster
Is that
voice.
true?
Oh yeah. I mean,
why?
It's just the way night is versus mornings. I mean,
That's a thing. I didn't even know that's a thing.
Oh yeah, and that's why it's bittersweet being on the mornings because I love being able to just be more relaxed versus night, and you feel like a little more stiff, and you got to be news person and more serious.
But isn't that kind of like what a news person is?
I mean,
is it?
I guess I grew up in a place where I watched news. It wasn't like that. And
really?
Yeah.
I feel like any city I travel to, it's like one. I don't mean this offensive.
No, I don't care.
But like one newscaster is like if you've seen one, you've seen.
Oh no, I totally agree. And
that's horrible to say. I'm sorry, Joe.
No, I agree.
Say that to your face.
I agree. It's funny because
there's a persona. It's like to me, it's one of those things that's challenging because like how do you be authentic when there's this expectation that everybody be the same?
Yeah,
isn't there somewhat of that? I mean, you got to wear the suit, you got to do the.
And you got to be authentic in a weird way, in the way you talk and the way you do things and the way you present yourself and you present stories. I mean, it all kind of ties together. I was actually just listening to a podcast about this sort of thing with a network anchor, but that's why with mornings you're more relatable, and I think you can be more relaxed, and that's one thing I like and think people like. I do like the news and the fact that you get the person the story. They want that. They want the news. But I think people in the mornings they want to wake up and feel warm.
Right.
You don't want to wake up and see how many people were shot in South or West. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, I think that's depressing.
Right.
In the mornings, I mean, we try to be more upbeat
But isn't a lot of news that? I mean, a lot of news is that.
Yeah. So,
but in the morning, that's why you try to throw in like the cooking spots and the good things that are happening in the community, and it's more of like the vibe, right? Like the personality, the being able to joke or
and it is the vibe. I mean, when you're sitting next to someone, if you're sitting next to someone that doesn't really feel that or like that, then it's hard. But I sit with a great co-anchor who I can feed off of. She's been in this market for 20 years.
She's
Alex
hilarious.
Delgado. I mean, everyone knows who she is
Yeah.
in this city. She's so funny that when you guys feed off of each other and you guys can show your personality, I think people love that. And, and if you can kind of squeeze that in to laugh about some little clip, I mean, I think it's
and she
better.
is all personality, by the way.
Oh my God. It's what you see on air is like tamed down, and then off
Dude,
desk,
I was on
thing.
her show one time, and we were on commercial break
on Central Valley Today.
It was I think it was something like that, and she was doing something, yelling, just like going, and all of a sudden they say action, she just snaps right back to it. You know, she was like on her.
You talk about professional and pros, like she is, I think, one of the best news personalities, and I say news personality in the fact that like her personality.
Yeah.
News people in this market, I think she is one of the best.
Yeah.
For sure. And she's not the stiff person. And I prefer that in my news.
What?
Someone who's not so stiff.
Someone who, how are you able to kind of like separate yourself from that though? Because it seems like newscasters are a type of a character. Is there not a character? I mean, is there not a voice? Is there not a stance? Is there not a...
There is. No, there is. I think that I've always kind of said this in a weird way, but when you watch the news, I mean, would you rather watch someone you can relate to?
Oh, 100%.
And so I feel like when I grew up watching the news, I mean, I watched the news every morning growing up, and that's kind of why I wanted to do morning news, is because I grew up watching it.
Yeah.
But I liked it because they were funny and they got along and they were genuine, and you could feel like you can go have a beer with that person. Right. I mean, and that's
why people like morning shows, whether it be radio morning shows or TV. Like they like that
100%.
Hearing people talk,
and some people don't though.
Really?
Some people can't stand the laughing and giggling and the jokes. Oh, there's people, trust me.
I've never heard somebody say, I don't want to hear jokes in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's what you want.
Some people don't. I mean, there's certain channels they can turn to then. They have their options here.
They do have their options.
They have their options in this market.
How do you find in your persona? Like, how did you find your newscaster voice? And I want to dig in on this because I want to know how newscasters get newscaster voices.
Okay, so when you watch, when you do,
Because the voice that you're talking right now is not the voice that you use when you're
now
Joe
when
Moeller on
I'm
TV.
reading like a professional story, you don't want to. Yeah. So when you first start this job, I mean, if you go back and watch my stuff from Montana, it's not.
You were in Montana first?
Yeah.
What part of Montana?
Helena,
Okay.
Great Falls television market. So I kind of went back and forth. But you watch my stuff from there, and you hear my voice, and it sounds like I'm too relaxed, like too just not professional, and articulate certain words a different way. And you watch yourself, and you watch your tapes, and you get better. And then you watch someone else, and you're like, okay, I can do this. I can do this.
But what's the standard? Like who? Like
There's
there's
no standard.
But who are the people? Like, are in newscasting, in being an anchor? Are there the greats within that industry? Like, are there people that you think like, oh, this?
I mean, every industry has them, right? But I think TV is more.
But who is it? Is it like the?
Oh, there's people.
The global shows though, like Good Morning America.
Like I have like World News Tonight. David Muir, I think, is fantastic.
Okay, yeah.
I was just listening to a podcast from Whit Johnson. He does another podcast that I was listening to, and he is a great anchor. He is GMA on the weekends. I think there's great anchors in a lot of markets, but it just takes sitting down and watching them. There's a number of people around the country that I definitely tune into. Yeah. Different stations too. Like I'll live stream. I'm a news nerd. I live stream stations in Boston, Denver, Dallas, Vegas, like all the time. So there's people in different markets for sure. But as far as anchors, I'd say those couple.
What's the goal for a news anchor? Just keep climbing the ladder, or is it to be established in a community?
Well, when I first got into this industry, I think a lot of people were like, oh, I just want to climb and get to the anchor desk and go to the biggest market possible, the biggest city, and make the most money. And it is for a lot of people. But I guess when I started, I kind of wanted that too. But I kind of moved into personal life too. I mean, I have girlfriend. She's in the same industry. Yeah. So that makes things difficult and not difficult, but different. How? But I mean,
just because your lifestyle and we both do the same thing. Schedule is crazy.
Yeah, we both do the same thing, and to be able to move around the country, and jobs are limited. I mean, you got to try and work your way into different cities.
Are they limited even for the industry you're in, though? I mean, it seems like there'd be a lot of options.
Well, I mean, there's only let's say for Fresno, there's 4 stations, and there's only a certain amount of jobs at each station. Yeah. So if there's full house, I mean, not all places, which is rare, but because it's a changing industry, then it's harder to find a job. I mean, if you're under contract sometimes, and you can't leave, I mean, it's sort of different and it changes. But I mean, for me, I mean, I honestly didn't think I'd be in Fresno this long, but I've liked it more than I thought. So I'm still here and I enjoy it. You kind of just, I don't know, you kind of think about what you want. You think what you want changes, I think. And it changes with where you go. And I think my goal is to get back home, which is LA area, Orange County, where I grew up. So hopefully I can get there. And I love reporting. Anchoring's fun and all, but I love reporting.
Which is what, more on the ground?
Yeah, you go out in the field stuff. Yeah, I like both. I think you can do, if you're good at one, if you're really good at one, you can definitely do the other. Some people can't, but they don't like to.
What is the prep process like, though? Is most of the stuff ready for you when you show up, or do you have to do a lot of stuff?
What do you mean?
Like when you show up to work, are you just reading teleprompter? Or are you like, do you know about the stories that you're talking about?
We have producers. I mean, I thought I show up at 3:30.
Are you a puppet, Joe?
I mean,
no, I'm just kidding.
Well, the thing is,
Joe,
no, it's totally cool. But a lot of people they don't know exactly. They think we just show up and read.
But that's my question. I mean, if you're watching a newscaster, I mean, is there like a research process that goes into it, or is it like, do you just have to get up to speed to be able to communicate? Because that's what I would assume more your job, to communicate what's going on, to be able to articulate in a way that people understand to people or to your community.
When I think you have to, especially as a news anchor, keep up with the current events that are happening, especially in your city. I mean, I was just watching the news here before we got here about the president talking about Syria and Turkey. And so I think when you stay up to date with current events and you get updates on your phone, it helps a lot, because then you go show up to work, you're already kind of mentally prepared. Yeah. I wake up in the morning and skim the number of apps that send me push alerts overnight. Yeah. So that helps a lot. But I mean, when I get in, I'm reading the rundown, which is everything in the story and the show. And you go through the scripts to understand everything. And I even watched the news the night before, so I kind of have an idea of what's going to be in our show the next day, somewhat. But I mean, I'm usually helping write a few things here and there in the morning before the show. And then Lately, I've been producing a lot the 11 o'clock show in the morning. So I do a lot of producing work too.
Okay.
which is cool. And I love producing.
So do you coming up with the segments?
Well, you build the show.
Okay.
So everything that's written in there, you're doing that. The video, you got to put it on the rundown. You got to format everything, have the right markers in there, so the director knows what to take. It's a process, but I think it's part of knowing what you're doing on desk is being able to put a show together. It's not just showing up and reading a prompter. Right. I mean, a lot of people could do that, I think. Yeah. And so when you can do the other thing, it helps. Is
that pretty much as a newscaster? News is pretty much your job, right? Like, so if you're not on TV, you're working on
you're working on a show
shows.
Or like you have an assignment or a special story. Like ratings period's coming up, so a lot of people around town are going to have special stories they got to work on.
Do news anchors consider themselves actors?
No.
Because in a way, journalists.
Yeah.
But there's a part of it that's acting. I mean, you're a journalist in the sense that you're reporting information or journalism in its truest form. But I mean, that's the part that there's the characterization of anchorman, right?
I think there's an expectation for people to be a sort of professional on air.
Professional meaning what? The way that you talk?
A news anchor. I mean, but what I'm saying is like,
what does that mean?
If you go on and talk about how we're having a conversation here on air, someone might not, they'd be like, okay, this isn't, I want the news straightforward. I don't want how you're going to be talking at dinner tables.
Right.
I mean, so it is a little bit different.
So where does the voice come from though? Because, like a newscaster is going to have a little bit more of a distinguished voice when
you just work on it when you're just
finding it.
Yeah. And you just try to, I don't know. You want to be professional, right?
But you don't talk like that when you're talking to your friends. But it's your way of stepping into your role. Yeah. Like somebody showing up for work and they put on a certain outfit. They put on
my suit.
Put on your suit and your voice.
Yeah, and then I go in there.
Do you feel like a different person when you're wearing your suit when you're not wearing your suit?
I hate wearing suits.
Really?
What's sad, I spend all my money on suits. And I try to go out in public and I'm like, I don't have anything to wear. Like I have nothing. It's all suits.
Yeah.
I don't feel like a different person. That's why I don't want to feel like a different person.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to read a certain way and talk a certain way because, I mean, I want to be professional. I think it's a sort of level of professionalism that every news anchor is going to talk differently off air. I mean, I wouldn't consider them actors.
Yeah.
I just think it's the way, especially even if you're in the field. I mean, a news reporter does the same thing. I mean, a lot of people in a lot of different industries do the same sort of thing.
I feel like in some ways it would be difficult though because you're not presenting your authentic, just true self, but at the same time, you're not like given a full role. You're in this in the middle. I'm communicating information, and because I'm communicating information, there has to be a way that I do it that I would imagine kind of put you in an interesting position. Because as much as you want to be, believable and fun and all these kinds of things, you're also doing TV. So I feel like there's a middle ground in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about certain stories as far as like, let's say, a death, a shooting, for example, I mean, you want to try and be a little more softer. I mean, you don't want to be talking the same way you talk about a pumpkin patch that's opening on Shaw. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You want to feel the same way you're doing it, like how you feel, how someone at home feels for the first time, they're hearing it for the first time. I feel like you should be the same way.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's weird to explain. It's hard to explain. And I think people in this industry sometimes struggle with trying to sound or make sure they're not sounding like they don't care.
Yeah.
They got to sound like they care. And I see that all the time where some people are just, they read something a certain way. They're monotone and it just doesn't sound genuine. It sounds a little weird. And I think it's a struggle for a lot of people. I mean, I still struggle with it, trying to find a middle ground or trying to find the right way to say certain things or sound a certain way. Yeah. No one's perfect in that sort of.
Is there a pressure that comes with it being? I mean, because there is a perfectionistic, perceived view of people who. I mean, you have to dress a certain way, got to be professional. Do people expect you to always be serious? Like, is it difficult to?
I don't think anyone expects me to be serious.
Really?
Me?
Like what? Yeah, I mean, I don't.
I mean, you watch us.
Well, so, yeah, but I would expect a newscaster to be serious for the most part.
No, I don't think. I mean, I hope not. I hope people wouldn't expect that in person.
So do you feel? You don't ever really feel? You don't feel that? You feel like it just is what it is.
I mean, you mean off camera?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel like when people see me in public, I'm not going to be that same person. I mean, I'll be the same person. I hope that I can.
Yeah.
They see me and you're like, oh wow, I see you on air. Kind of act the same. I don't know. You got to be yourself off a camera, and I think people like that even more when they get to know you a little bit more. Because you don't share everything about your life on air.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you can kind of be a little bit different off air.
I think too, I mean, it's interesting. I'm sure you've seen this as you've studied news, but it's funny how it's evolved and continues to evolve. You know, you used to have these people that would sit behind a desk and just read information verbatim, communicating thoughts and ideas with the intent of allowing the audience to make the decision. Here's the facts. Here's what happened. Here's what we saw. You can decide what you think about this information. It seems as it's evolved, there's more and more of side choosing, picking side, what side on which you stand. You see it a lot within just the divide between media and politics, and how there's somewhat of this warring feud from between politics and then your news party, wherever it is that you get your news. And it's not just a matter of communicating information as much anymore, but it's information also with a little bit of a heavy hand or a slant. It's funny, you watch Fox News, you watch CNN, they can be covering the same story, but have a completely different
You'll get a different side.
Spin.
Sure.
And that, I think that's the thing that's interesting to me, is a lot of times it's the same story, but a different spin. And that actually has a lot of power with your viewer.
Oh, it totally does. And that's the thing that I like about local news, is that we don't do that really. I mean, I should never give my opinion on camera.
Do you believe that?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think that these networks, I watch them all. I go back and forth between them all just to kind of get the different sides, because you're going to get that and different perspectives, and to watch the different news anchors. I think it's unfortunate. I don't like when I see certain people do it a lot, and certain stations do it a lot, and I still struggle to find that one station that doesn't do it. I think that's one reason why I think local news is so appealing to people all over the place, is because they can watch and just sort of get the news. I mean, sometimes the bias, I want to say, kind of leaks through from networks to local TV. But I mean, another thing that people don't realize is they might think NBC is one way, but our NBC station's owned by Nexstar. So I don't work for NBC. I work for a company called Nexstar. So a lot of people might not or Fox. See, I don't like Fox News. I'm not going to watch KMPH. But they're not even really related necessarily.
Isn't it difficult though for people even to know really what information to trust, who to trust? I mean, I feel like that's kind of it continues to be the difficult thing. Again, what I'm saying about, media presented in a way that, humans have been able to meddle in it. It's not just, here are the facts. It's like playing a game of telephone, No,
I totally agree.
And it comes down from this person to this person, this person, and this person then puts a little bit of opinion.
And I think that's why the president tweets so much, is because it's straight to the public rather than going through a news outlet.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see the different things that go through different stations, that this story is portrayed this way on one channel and it's portrayed this way on another channel on the network level, it's frustrating.
So you're a Trump supporter?
No, I don't support one way or another.
Yeah, that's BS.
No,
you don't support one way or another?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to talk about it. Yeah. Because that's just, again, then
do you feel but do you feel like you can't talk about it?
I don't want to talk about it
because it would ostracize you away from one group.
I just think it's unprofessional for a journalist to kind of go one way or another, and I know some do. Some
because
prefer,
they
goal
feel
like their
what?
voice is a voice they're a public figure and they can influence the world. I think that's how some people are. I'm not that way. I like to be unbiased and just report the news.
How do you draw that line in a culture that's evolving though, and not get left in the dust?
What do you mean? Elaborate on that.
Because it's an evolving thing. It's like people who say chivalry isn't dead, or that want to fight for things to happen, but in the evolving world that we live in, things change. The role of a newscaster, as much as we want to say they should be professional, they shouldn't pit a story towards one side or the other. The facts are that's where news has completely evolved.
I don't think so on the local level.
On a local level, it hasn't? I
don't think so. I think you sometimes, like I said, you see it leak through from when they get their content from the shared networks stuff, which is kind of confusing. But I mean, there's times where I've seen things where I've changed the scripts because it is biased. Mm-hmm. And you want to make it unbiased as possible. I don't think you see that on a local level, which is one reason why I do like local news, is because you don't do that as much. I mean, if there's a package about something going on in Washington, D.C., let's talk about impeachment inquiry. I mean, I have a thing where we're not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it. We're going to get the news. That story gave you what's going on, but we're not going to talk about it. I mean, why would we? It's not our place.
Because your thought is, if you talk about it, you end up choosing a side.
Yeah,
and if you choose a side, subliminally, you're telling your audience to do so.
And I personally think that journalists shouldn't.
Yeah,
You're supposed to be unbiased.
Well, I agree.
Going to college, that's what you learn, and that's how I feel when it comes to that.
I completely agree with you. I just think that I'm wondering how we're going to manage that tension as a society in a world that it seems in some ways that type of journalism is a bit archaic. And I hear what you're saying as it pertains to the local level,
it's a little
but
different.
it does seem like a lot of the local guys, I mean, if they had the opportunity to have more of a global position, that they would
there's so
jump
many
at the
I see
opportunity
sometimes
to do
they
so.
do this or that, and I'm like, really? Like, now everyone kind of knows what you're thinking.
Yeah.
So you ask a certain question a certain way. I don't know. I've seen it before, but
at the same time, can't you kind of empathize with that? Because I mean, you do have opinions, right?
Yeah, but I'm not here to give my opinion. That's not my job.
And so
nobody wants to know why would someone want to know my opinion? Right?
Well, I think people want to know opinion because I think people find comfort in guidance.
But
you know what I mean?
That's not. You can get guidance from somewhere else. You can get the tools or the information, and you make the opinion. I mean, I'm not here to give you an opinion.
Right, and ethically, that's understandable.
Yeah.
But as far as community standards, the viewer isn't thinking like that.
Well,
like as
I
a
think
viewer,
a lot
when I'm watching TV, I don't know. Maybe I'm not looking for people to give maybe their opinion, but I think maybe subconsciously, the way that we're hardwired, I think that we're looking, we're
You
all
want to know
in
what's
some
right
way-
and what's wrong.
Yeah, we're looking for guidance
and you don't
towards
know.
the right thing.
But I think a lot of the time, you might say that, but you're looking for this way or that way, and why is this bad, or why is what he's doing bad, or why is what he's doing is good, and sometimes
Which is what, in essence, the right or wrong. What is right?
Yeah.
What is wrong here?
I mean, you would see the bias in a certain story. When you're saying a viewer wants to see a certain thing and take something away from it, their opinion, they want to have an opinion on it. I don't think a lot of people, when they watch our channel, local news, they're going to be getting that. And I don't think they expect that. I don't think 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, a lot of younger millennials are watching the news. I really don't think that. And so I do think the older generation, or people that are older than me at least, they're not watching to get an opinion. And I hope not. I hope they're not watching to get my opinion on
Well,
something.
I think what's interesting is I don't think that most people are aware of their motivators. I think that a lot of motivators are subconscious, and I don't know that it's trying to get, I just think it comes back to more that guidance thing.
Yeah.
And I agree that I mean, fundamentally, I would say opinions should stay out of it. But in a world where it seems like the cat is kind of out of the bag, so to speak, it's like, how do we help people then begin to understand what is news now?
I'm a firm believer, and especially in this where I'm doing a morning news anchor. You give the facts. I mean, I still am not there to tell you the way you should think. I mean, we are your local election headquarters. That's a brand that we have in our station, but it's more of this city council member did this on this day. I mean, I don't talk about that stuff. I don't give my opinions on that stuff. And I think,
and it's almost, do you think it's kind of a choice that you should have made if that is the profession you have chose? Do you forfeit your ability to use your platform to propagate your opinion?
No, I think so. Yeah. In a weird way. Yeah, I do actually. I didn't get into this to give my opinion on things. I love telling stories and I like sharing the news. You're a storyteller. That's what news reporters are.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, some think there's something else.
Yeah.
But the whole time I've been in this news industry, I've really tried to be unbiased. You try and just give the facts. Here's the news. And I going forward, I hope I can still do that. I try to. I don't like to talk about politics on air. I mean, I like to ask questions. I think news reporters and news anchors, anybody, digital reporters, which is a huge new thing, you got to be informed. You got to know what to ask about certain topics. And I think that sometimes when you see things leak through or certain biases when they ask certain questions, but I as far as forfeiting that giving my opinion, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I try to. I mean, you see local news reporters. I've grown up watching certain channels, I still don't know what they believe in. I've watched them for 25 years. I still have no idea what they think.
Yeah.
They don't talk about politics on air. Here's the news. But in local news, you're not.
But that's more, again, with local.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I love to do network stuff, but eventually down the line. But if I do that, I want it to be news. Like I like going to wildfires or going to a bridge collapse, stuff like that. The news.
You find too that it's not just within politics. I mean, it's whether you're talking big pharmaceutical companies and drug abuse, sexual harassment. People choose sides on all kinds of things like that.
Yeah, and I see that again more on the network level. You see certain opinions on things, how one thing affects the next or affects this and impacts the stock market, impacts the election. You know what I'm saying? That kind of
right.
But another channel might not come down that way.
Yeah,
I can see that on that level. But as far as here locally, I still think you're getting the facts on those things. I don't think, at least I hope not.
Yeah,
Anchors here, reporters here, are really putting their opinions on things. But I do see, like you mentioned, there are people in this industry, in my industry, that I see all the time who are giving their opinions, and I get the fact that they're a public figure and they have a sort of platform that they can make change in certain ways, and I get that, and I think that's some people's choice to do that. But I also think that there's certain times and places for them to do that. I do see people do that, and sometimes I'm like, why?
So how do we know what news can be trusted?
I mean, you
hear the whole fake news thing, right?
Yeah.
And then when you dig in and you evaluate, okay, where is the like, for example, when you show up, where are you guys getting your information from?
So we have different sources. There's CNN. We have a partnership with them, so you can get video from them, or you can get different stories. But you got to read the script. You got to know what you're talking about.
But
sometimes there's no script, or you just got to look it up yourself.
So, but are you basically getting news from other news sources,
national stuff?
Networks?
National stuff, yeah.
So, when they're getting their information from where? Like, who is controlling this narrative?
So, how TV works when it comes to national stories? We actually do have a bureau in Washington D.C. So we get some stories from them, but it's how the reporter writes it. I mean, we get, since we are NBC, we do have a partnership with them, and we are able to get video and stories packages from them as well. Same thing with CNN. We have a partnership with them. And as you know, CBS 47 is our sister station. They have a thing with CBS. So every station has their way to get video through those different platforms, I guess you could say. But the reporter who writes it, it's how they write it. And that's how it turns out on air. I mean, same thing with if there's a script I'm supposed to read, I can go through and make changes I want. I do have the power to do certain things to scripts.
Yeah.
When it goes on air, I do that all the time, not to be biased a certain way, but if I don't like the way something's being written or it's not conversational, I don't want to write, I can change it.
I guess the question that I ask, and I feel like some people ask, is who's vetting the information, in the sense that you think about the fact that most Americans, I mean, the way that it has always been prior to, I guess, even the evolution of social media, we're getting information from the news that we turn on TV.
Yeah.
But if you trace that trail back, like somebody, this is where you get the corrupt media, or the media is, and then you talk with guys like yourself that are extremely genuine, I just want to do my job well.
Yeah.
I want to communicate accurate information, but the information that you're getting, you're also getting from up the stream, up the chain quite a bit. Who's vetting the content? Like, where is the content coming from?
I guess,
is it coming from?
When so for us, for example, we're NBC. So when we take a package from a reporter who's in Washington, D.C., gathering all the facts, I mean, you kind of believe they're getting the right facts. You're hoping.
Yeah.
When you're putting it on air, I mean, these networks are pretty reliable. I mean, they're getting the facts. And then when they aren't, I hope they're attributing a certain thing to someone saying that, because that's where a lot of people get in trouble. You got to attribute. Like, that's why you hear it in the news all the time. Police say, she says, he says, because we're not saying that. Someone else is saying that. But as far as vetting their stuff, I mean, there's 1 or 2 or 3 people who look over their scripts and stuff before it's sent down to us.
But you're not seeing that.
No, but we don't. I mean, we're not in DC.
And I think, though, that probably is the, why it would, I guess in an ideal world, we're kind of past it. But if people could just stick to the facts and information, because people get emotionally charged around content, around, how it's not just what happened, it's how the story was told. We could all be in a room and experience something and experience it a bunch of different ways,
Yeah.
and based upon how we communicate that, will determine how other people hear it, which will also determine how other people actually feel about it.
Yeah.
And I think then that becomes, in a lot of ways the challenge, because the information that you're getting is not, it's not inaccurate, but I mean, it has been passed down through a lot of different chains. So I feel like it's a slippery slope in some ways,
for sure.
to be able to, as a viewer, as a listener, know what information is accurate and true and can be trusted.
And I guess for a local station like ours or another one anywhere, I mean, when you see a package sometime, or a package is a story. It's a package put together. It's a story from network. Sometimes you see it and you're like, oh, well, why'd they ask that way? I mean, yeah, you do see it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, it happens. It's the new world, and you do see it in certain stations. And that's what I guess gets difficult with being a local TV station sometimes, is if you do see it on there, it's usually not the local people doing it.
Yeah.
It's usually coming from network.
But that's all you got to work with, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But if we see that, or if for example, we have a choice as well to run it and break it down ourselves and change it into a VOSOT or just a reader. But I think generally the people who are reporting for network on, it's called like a news path or something like that, which means their job is specifically to do it for local TV stations around the country, but they're working for NBC or CBS. So there's certain reporters that just do that, or CNN too. And they just, usually those that just report the facts.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you do see the bias, unfortunately.
How much do ratings have to do with all this, though? Because at some point you can't just say, well, we're not going to run that story because we don't know about, I mean, you have to keep up.
I would say we pretty much trust the network and their fact gathering. I mean,
so then you understand why people would question the media.
oh, well, yeah.
I mean, it's logical to understand why people would question the media.
I mean, when you watch different channels, you're getting different things. So how do you know what to believe? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I get why people are skeptical. I mean, I see why people are upset with the media, and a lot of the times it's because they don't understand necessarily how they work as well.
What do you mean by that?
Like I mentioned, I don't work for NBC, but someone at home might be like, "Oh, NBC, I hate he's an NBC anchor
because of who you're associated with."
Yeah, I mean, I work on an NBC channel, but I don't work for NBC.
But like, even if you were associated with them, what does that change?
Because that's an example. I'm not
isn't
saying
that part of the unfair? I mean, pressurized bias. Part of being in the role that you're in is there's an expectation. You know what I mean? You think that you're just a newscaster, but you also become the face of whatever is represented from your news station.
100%.
You are one with those pitches.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But if again, we trust where we're getting our information. I mean, usually on our level of stuff, it's just reporting the facts on local news. We don't really have the commentary sort of stuff when it comes to politics, which is, I think, good. I don't think people want that in the mornings, especially. Which I like. I mean, newscasts are usually half an hour at a time, so you don't have time for it either. So, I mean, usually when you get stories from a national level, I mean, there's certain reporters who just hopefully give them the facts, but I get that sometimes it can be confusing.
Do you ever not get passionate about something, though, that you hear and you kind of want to just tell people what you think? I mean, do you not ever feel that way?
I mean, yeah, all the time. I mean, there's certain stories that I will tell them, hey, you need to drop this because no one cares. Yeah. I mean, not unfortunately, but I have that power sometimes to tell certain people, like, we're not running that. Like, we don't need to run that.
Yeah.
It's not important.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes people don't agree with me, but then you have a little fight about it.
Right. What about stuff that happens in culture that is unfair, unjust, or things that you read about or things that you see and having an opinion about those?
I do see people give their little remarks after here and there. I mean, I think that when a story is sad or if there's a shooting, regardless of what it is a sad story, right? Yeah. I mean, I think you can say that's unfortunate, or hopefully they can find who's responsible. Stuff like that, I feel like anybody can agree on.
Is your personality just not driven towards it, though? Like to not, like when you, whether it be politics or something happening and having an opinion on something, to not meddle or get involved, or even in public?
It's not, well, as in my personality, not doing that on air. Yeah, that's not what I'm here for. Mm-hmm. And that's not what I want to do. It's not, I think it comes with, and I think you miss that. I mean, you said when I was younger, I would see newscasts where you wouldn't get the opinions of things. And so for me, I mean, even my co-anchor, we don't really sit there and talk about these things. It's just not what we do. Yeah. And you don't really see that a lot in this market, though. I mean, the other stations don't really do that either here, which is cool. But you do see it sometimes, and that's not my personality to do that. But other stories that are funny or cracking jokes, like the deer who ran through a window.
Dude, I saw that video. Did you guys see the deer that ran through the window?
Yeah,
it's a classic.
Like,
that's a good one.
We're going to talk about that. I mean, I'm not there to talk about politics. Don't get me wrong. I love politics. I watch the news all the time. I'm always reading stuff. And so...
yeah, but so then what good does that do? Like, don't you feel like you have some sort of corporate responsibility to humanity to do something about the things that you're passionate about?
No, if I wanted to do that, I'd go become an activist or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Become an influencer and try and do that way.
Aren't you already, in essence, an influencer?
No. That's not why I got it.
But you realize that people perceive you as one.
No, and I think that... And that's another thing that I think is unfortunate with.
But that's a fact. People perceive people and others in the public eye, in essence, as influencers.
But you can be an influencer, but you don't have to be an influencer in the fact that I'm going to tell you what you should believe in when it comes to politics. Or
so you're an influencer, but you only influence insert. You choose where you influence.
I mean,
that completely
you choose
makes
what
sense.
You post, right? I mean, what if I want to influence you on saving the planet? I mean, or something like that, or something you're passionate about, adopting dogs. I mean, there's different things that you're not really picking an opinion on. I mean, who's going to be helping dogs or certain things like that? I don't consider myself an influencer, and I hope that people in news don't consider themselves influencers. I mean, you see that a lot. You do?
I'd hope, yeah. Yeah.
I see it all the time, every day. I see people on my Instagram feed, and I'm like, why are you...
Who's not an influencer now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. And I should be better at social media than I am. I just don't do it that much.
Do they teach you like how to use it? Do they ask you to use it at work, being that with the evolution?
You have to. I mean, it's such a part of your job.
But it's just reposting stories?
I do that a lot. I share stories a lot, and I try not to share anything that's my opinion or anything like that. But every once in a while, you'll drop a line of like a rescue happened or something like that. You'll put it on your page like, "Wow, glad they got this." You know what I'm saying? I mean, what's crazy about social media, especially for me, what I do, I think people, they don't go to my page to get news. They can get news from KC24's page or Fox or CNN, or they can get their news from there. I don't think they follow me to get the news. They might follow me to get an interesting story here and there. I post a picture of my dog, and
they like the dog.
I swear it goes way more likes than anything else. And so I'm like, maybe that's the key. It's just posting a picture of my dog. And it's
full circle. You never finished the story. So is your dog fully trained?
He's a work in progress. He is trained, but he's 1 year old.
But so the guy that does the 2-week thing, though, he teaches them how to be off of his leash in public, correct?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the most brilliant thing for anybody who's ever.
But it's illegal.
What do you mean it's illegal?
You can't have your dog off the leash in public.
So, you ever have your dog off the leash in public?
Sometimes.
It's very illegal.
Maybe in like.
I don't think a public figure like yourself should be.
Well,
doing
the thing is, I'm not telling you where I do.
Moeller. You're not telling me.
Well, I don't do it often. I really don't.
There he is.
I really don't do it often. Yeah, he's a character. Man.
How old is he?
He is 1 year, and a couple months. But yeah, we have. I just took him out to the park a couple minutes ago.
A couple minutes ago?
Or an hour ago. Got to burn his energy somehow. He's an interesting character.
Oh, he cuddles with other dogs too?
Oh, yeah. He has his best friends at the park. He sees every night. Are you kidding me? He has little friends. And
hey, have you ever seen The Pet Psychic?
Which one's that?
It's a person that like
not like Caesar Milan. Oh, wait. I have seen that.
No, the psychic that like tells you
I
what your
think we ran a story
doing.
on that, and I was like, we need to get her number and get her on the show or something like that.
Do you ever do stuff like that just because you want people to come on that you think are interesting?
I mean, yeah. You kind of have that power, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a cool event happening here. That's cool.
Dude, I want to get that psychic chick to come on the podcast.
Is she local?
No, she's not local. Look her up. Just look
That's
up
a big time guest. I'm going to come too.
Pet Psychic. She it's I'm super skeptical, but she'll like be talking to somebody on the phone and she says, like, you've been leaving your dog like at home on its own by himself, and she's really not happy with that. You need to spend more time. And they're like,
how do they know?
And well, the people
Pet psychic?
they act like it's true.
So when you do look at your pet, whatever it is, and you're kind of like, what are you thinking right now?
That's always the big question.
Are you mad at me? Or like, what, did I do something wrong?
It's weird though that dogs are so like, if you're mad at a dog, you yell at a dog, it just forget. It's so forgiving.
Oh, but it knows.
You know what's helped me understand people?
What?
Dogs.
Oh, what a dog has taught me a lot. I'm telling you, a dog has taught me a lot. This is the first dog that I had by myself. Oh, me and my girlfriend and I. This is our dog. Growing up, I had dogs, but I mean, it teaches you so much as far as responsibility. I mean, it's also stressful. Gives you anxiety about certain things.
You're responsible.
I mean, it's a lot of work, and especially this dog, man. But it teaches someone a lot. And I think it's important for people to have pets. I mean, they're your best friend too. Right?
What's helped me understand people more is like understanding dog breeds. Like if you think about people like this, like people that are frustrating and annoying, if you just like think, oh, they're just another breed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you look at like bulldogs, they're like lazy. They kind of like lay around.
Yeah.
And so if you know somebody who's lazy and just lays around, rather than being mad at them for not being a German Shepherd, you just realize you're just an English bulldog, dude.
Yeah. So the thing I've also learned since having a dog is a lot of people don't like German Shepherds, or they think a certain way about them. So I'm really trying to not think one certain way about a breed anymore. I mean, I grew up with German Shepherds, so I know how they are.
Dog shame?
Yeah. I mean, everyone has their certain...
like Chihuahuas. Louie's like that. I used to not like Louie because she's
she's probably so sweet, right?
She is sweet. Do you need to take a second to fix the mic?
It's so awkward. Like, can I have this? Because they help you there. You gotta... I'm like, I do news.
Do you have like a favorite makeup brush?
No. Apparently I was doing it wrong before, but... There's consultants too that come in.
How come you don't just spray tan? Can't you just spray tan and then you don't have to really use makeup?
Like spray makeup?
No, like spray tan.
No, because then you still got to do like there's lighting. Got to make sure you cover all the imperfections.
How much is that gonna be obsolete though? Like, isn't it weird? I mean, the cameras at this point you can see the makeup on your skin.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like I feel like at some point are we gonna be like we need to come up with a different method here?
I think a big part of it is like if you're seeing someone with a blemish or something on their face. I mean, you're gonna be looking at that. If you can cover that up, it's not as obvious. I even studied this part in college. Is like when you're watching, something's distracting you. You're not listening to them. You're looking at something. So I think you're trying to just be as neutral as possible when it comes to your
You know something to trip out on? Isn't it weird that I've been saying this, that your eyes don't see in 4K, but they can see 4K?
That's...
Like why?
That. I don't like 4K.
But think about that. Like if I look at you, I can't see you as clear as if you were on TV.
Yeah, it's
at
scary.
The same distance.
When I see a big TV,
weird.
I'm like, God.
I feel like they're gonna have to come up with something different. Like
they need to not be so tight on our faces.
There's that.
I tell them all the time. I'm like, nobody wants to see anybody's face that tight, guys. Come on, pull the camera. And you get self-conscious too.
I would imagine
hardcore because you know how. I mean, even if you saw a news anchor right here, you'd be like.
Well,
not pleasant.
It's just so crystal clear.
And
I don't know. I think they're gonna have to come up with something different. At what point are we gonna be like?
A lot of
it's
sets.
okay?
I mean, have you seen CBS's new one here? I mean, it's super wide. They have these big monitors, and so you just see like a huge huge monitor, and the person's like just standing in front of it, so you don't really see their face. Which I'm
close.
So jealous.
You wish that was you.
That's why Lauren, our weather person, she meteorologist, get mad at me for saying weather person.
Why is that like insulting?
Yeah.
Like it's like a dirty.
She's like,
word.
I didn't go to school and get my
to call me the weather girl.
Yeah, she's like, I'm a meteorologist. I'm a scientist. Okay.
She is a scientist.
I don't know.
Well, see, that's stuff that you don't know.
I don't know, but she'll correct you, man. I don't blame her. I mean, she did go spend time of her life to study and get that title.
Yeah.
So she is a professional. But I mean, that for CBS said, she always says like, it's nice being weather because she doesn't have to do it perfectly because she's never on camera like we are, which. One thing I hate. But
do you think as time goes on you'll change in the sense that you'll become more involved in opinion sharing, or do you think that is your fight to just keep the flag
for now?
in the ground?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Whenever I have this talk with my girlfriend all the time. When you try and pick a network you want to work at, I mean, for a news reporter, like a network hits you up, you go,
Yeah.
But there's sometimes, I guess, there's networks you're like, I don't want to work for them because this or that.
Like what would be an example of something you wouldn't want to work for someone for? Like,
honestly, all the networks I would work for. I mean, even if I know some people have a certain perception of a certain network.
You're just willing to sell out. That's the kind of guy
okay,
you are.
watch.
I'm just kidding, Joe.
No. I'm trying to explain it. Like, if I tell one way or another, everyone's be like, "Oh, this guy's opinion." No,
I'm just acting like I'm insulting you. I'm really not insulting.
I'm not insulted. It takes a lot to insult me. You wouldn't know that, but everyone at work, you should see everybody at work making fun of me all the time.
And do you even laugh? I feel like you don't even laugh, Joe.
Oh, I laugh all the time.
Do you laugh like a newscaster?
I'm super sarcastic.
Do you laugh like a newscaster when you laugh?
God, no.
You don't?
No. I'm a super sarcastic person, actually.
You are?
Oh, yeah. And if you get to know me like really well, if on air, I try to be sarcastic, but sometimes I feel like some people don't really understand it. Like my co-anchor does, we get it. And then if we say something on air, we just start laughing when we get off air. I'm like, oh my God, no one knows what we're talking about. It was funny though, because someone actually wrote into Lauren. They're like, why are you so rude to Joe? And I'm like,
really?
I feel like I'm rude to
Do you
her.
ever get stalkers?
There's definitely people who consistently like will write, and sometimes it's kind of creepy or weird.
Yeah, just because you don't know.
Well, and there's a lot of even girls. I mean, get it a lot, like inappropriate stuff. My girlfriend gets it all the time, and you're kind of
Really?
like, oh yeah. And it's I don't know why people like don't take a clue. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that or send that?
Yeah.
There's some weird stuff out there, and it's I don't know about
People
stalkers.
want attention, right? I mean, that's people.
I don't
want
know if
attention.
people are socially awkward or they just don't know how to act in public, or they don't.
This is in public, or this is on.
Well, they
social
won't
media?
do it in public because they want to do it on social media.
Yeah.
And I think that it's unfortunate. I think it just shows where our world is at, because everyone hides behind a camera.
Yeah.
Even when people comment or say they write in, "Oh, who is that guy, Joe?" or something like that. You look at their profile, and there's a picture of a dog on their profile, and you're like, "Okay, who are you to tell anybody anything?" You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
How do you handle that?
I think at first it was harder but then I always remind myself, I mean, you kind of signed up for that.
Yeah.
To be put on camera in front of everybody's TV. And then, I mean, they have their opinion of their newscasters. Some of them give their opinion too much. I mean, repeatedly, but.
Do you watch yourself back?
Yeah. Every once in a while.
To what? To critique or?
Yeah, critique most of the time. That's how you learn, that's how you grow. Because you watch the people you like. And I mean, imitating someone, I think, is the biggest version of flattery. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's flattering if someone wants to copy you because they like what you do.
Yeah.
And so you watch a lot of news anchors and you're like, dang, they're good at that. They're professional. Like, I want to be like that. So you go back and you watch yourself. You're like, okay, I shouldn't be doing that. I need to sit up straight. I need to not tilt my head that way. I need to not turn my chair that way. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's how you grow.
Is it a cutthroat business? Is it like, is there a lot of politics involved?
Yeah. I mean,
as far as in being able to, I mean, people talk about in film, and there's a lot of film. I know in music, there's politics involved because you're the face, but you're not there's the money behind it. There's the backing behind it. There's the business behind it. There's the people that are behind it.
I think it is cutthroat. I mean, it's a hard industry to do, and it's a hard industry to survive in. But I think that it's a lot of it's about timing, about opportunity, and a lot of it is about you putting yourself out there, and you're not gonna get a job you don't apply for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're not gonna grow, get better if you don't maybe seek some help or seek some feedback. Ask your boss, hey, what could I do better? And we have consultants that come in that kind of give us feedback as well. But
What does that look like?
I mean, it's someone who watches your work and says, do this, don't dress this way. This is how you do your makeup. And that helps. But I mean, me going through this industry, I've been doing this for 6 years now on air. And I've had people I've looked up to in different markets who've given me feedback. Or don't do your hair like that. Like, you look 14. Yeah. You know what I mean? Which I still look young.
You still look 14.
I still look maybe 15 now.
15 and a half.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's certain things that you try to do or not do. And I don't know. You just kind of grow with it. It is cutthroat, though. I'll tell you that.
Does it make it difficult to keep from being self-conscious or allow insecurity to get the best of you when you do feel like, I mean, you know, your face, your work, your articulation is pretty much out there to be judged?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it gets hard. And anchoring's helped me with that because, I mean, at first, there were some people who did not like me on their camera. They didn't like me being in that position.
Really?
Because I mean, I still look young. I'm 28.
Yeah.
But I look younger than I am. And so I think when a lot of people, when they watch their news, they want a mature news anchor.
Right.
And I get that. But I mean, I've been doing this a lot longer than some people have.
Right.
Who are already anchoring in different roles. So I think that when people write in or they say this or that and they don't really know somebody's background, they jump to conclusions. At first I was like, it would be hurtful, but then you kind of just, okay, everyone has their opinion. There's always you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
You never will. Don't try. You never will. Like, it's not going to happen. So I think that you kind of got to get over it.
Right.
I mean,
And that's the tough part probably in what you do, because you have a voice, but you also can't use it in some ways. You know what I mean? Like you probably can't clap back like you might want to, or feel like there's a human tendency or desire to be understood. So to explain yourself on
I like
things
that
you
clap
can't
back.
really.
No, yeah. No, I get it all the time. Sometimes you get this urge to reply so bad.
Have you ever been baited?
Did
Did you ever respond? And
Yeah.
you did?
A couple times. I
Really?
won't talk about it, but
Did it? Of course, you won't talk about anything controversial.
I can't talk about it. But there's a couple times that I have. But I mean, it's people are just not informed on certain things, and so you kind of just help them. I do it kill them with kindness, sort of way, and I think that's the best way to go about this sort of situations when someone critiques you.
Do you think that people deserve to be heard, though? I mean, especially when in a world where people, I mean, we like to say that we're, innocent till proven guilty, but in the world that we live in, I mean, even people in your industry, whether it be Matt Lauer or some of these guys, I mean, you hear the accusation, you hear the accusers, you don't get a lot of information from the person accused. And you can't help but know there's part of that is people trying to do what we've always been taught, like keep your mouth shut, don't say anything, don't incriminate. And then there's the opposite side where you can say too much and shoot yourself in the foot. But do you think that we do people a disservice by not allowing or asking or championing their feedback as well, to be willing to hear both sides? I mean, in some ways, isn't that what news
it is offered? I mean, it should be offered. We always try and give both sides, especially when politics comes around.
Do you really, though? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I can guarantee you Matt Lauer could have gone out on any news channel he wanted to.
And said, yeah.
Right. Why? Who wouldn't take that interview?
Yeah.
So I think that people should also think that if they're only getting one side, maybe the other side didn't want to talk. Because not everybody does. Not everybody likes the news. Nobody wants to be on camera.
Not everybody can. I think that not everybody. Sometimes people, I don't know. I've known a lot of people that it's like, I guess they don't know how to represent themselves in a way that would actually help them. So it's better for them to not say anything. Yeah. But then in not saying anything, they also look like they're guilty of.
Yeah. And I see what you're saying there. And it's unfortunate sometimes that happens. But I mean, how do you not run the story?
Well, I don't know. I think that that's the thing. At some point, where are we making news out of just people's imperfections? At some point, like what is news? I mean, I think that that's the evolution that becomes a bit difficult to rationalize and like morally, whatever that national moral compass is as a society of people, to be able to say, at what point are we more excited, news for us, hearing what's going on in the life of Kim and Kanye, than something that actually affects our day-to-day life? Because there's a lot of people that would rather hear the drama story on who got caught doing what this week than actually news that could, news, what would be the purpose of news? To inform us. So hopefully we could have information to push our society forward, not just to get off on.
I think that a lot of people forget that. I see what you're saying with that. I mean, who's to say that this deer running through a window is a story? Is it?
Well, I would imagine part of that is the balancing act of trying to just balance in a little humor with what you're doing, right?
No, and I think that's more shock. It's a shocking video. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, but it's not news, right? So I think that there's in a newscast, there's a number. You watch like you said, Kim and Kanye, you're going to get that stuff, right? Because you're going to watch that channel for entertainment news.
Yeah, but to go back to like O.J. Simpson days, when like that trial took over
huge.
all of television.
Oh yeah.
But it was the flaw of, I mean, there's a lot of people that are murdered. There's a lot of people, and I get that his is different in the sense of the public figure that he was, but it overtook everything in media. That was the story.
Well, because everyone already knew who he was.
But that's where people also get into the whole conversation of what is wag the dog and what is not. What is, hey, let's talk about this, where this is really kind of going on.
I mean, it happened. Yeah, I know.
Over here. So, and if information's coming down the chain, somebody is saying, here's what we're covering.
So I guess how news works is there is an editorial meeting. They decide what's going to be in the news today.
Do you not care about that?
No, I do, but it's not. I do have a say somewhat, but at the same time, I mean, I'm not out there gathering it. Reporters should go out and gather it. I've done that. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, news is news. I mean, it's a good story. We're storytellers. But a lot of people, I mean, it's more than, I feel like for some people, it's more than just storytelling. It's equipping people with information that they need to be in the know of
what is happening in the country that has given them the rights and liberties that it's given them. Like, I feel like there's people that are passionate about, people need to hear this information.
And I think that most news stations are pretty good about doing that.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times, sometimes something
But how do you know?
as for the news I watch, I get it. I mean, in the day of social media nowadays, I feel like anybody can put anything they want to anywhere nowadays. So, I mean, a newscast, you have time. I mean, there's a time frame. I mean, unfortunately, you can't put everything in a newscast because I got 22 minutes to put in a newscast. And
do you think because of that,
6 is of its weather.
But do you think because of that, news will continue to become more entertainment than actual news?
I don't think it is entertainment more than news.
You don't think it's entertainment?
No. Do you watch the 5 p.m. here and get entertained?
No, but I'm saying, like, for the crowd,
I
the
don't.
crowd that you're talking about that watches the news in general is not going to be millennials. Like, I feel like majority of people are getting their news from their cell phones or from social media. I still think that you have an echelon of people that are older, that have grown up doing these kinds of things, that have been around. That's what they're accustomed to. That's why I wonder, like, where is it going? Is it going to be more entertainment? And the reason I say entertainment, I'm not saying strictly entertainment, but I mean, I think that
Juicy stories,
or where we're not counting on all the information to be 100% correct, because we're actually getting information from a lot of places now.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many places online now. I mean, I can't even tell you how many stations news alerts I get, because and I also think that you like a different style than he does, and she does. You're right.
But at what point? Yeah, I agree.
You're
but
at
what point is that a good thing? At what point do we not need to be able to just gravitate toward things we want to hear, but actually need to engage
But if
ourselves
every
in things that we
station
need
was
to
the
hear?
same, then why would there be multiple stations? You know
Well,
what
the
I'm saying?
purpose would be, I guess, the balancing of facts. The fact that everybody.
I don't disagree with that, but I'm saying, like, every station is going to run a little bit of a different taste. I mean, some stations might be more into education, so you're going to get that from there. Some station might be more into the crime, to update you about what happened down the street or different things like that. So I think with your phone, you're going to get a lot more different types of news, entertainment, sports, certain type of
You're
news.
talking more content though than slant.
Yeah.
Than slant of the news, because I'm talking more of slant. Like, I think that people gravitate towards information that is presented in a way or in a slant that they are accustomed to, or that they like, or that they enjoy, beyond just the topics. You know what I mean? And I feel like at some point, news-wise, I mean, my question, I guess, overall is, where should people really go to get solid information? I feel like that's the difficult thing, is we live in an information age, which is why I think that you need more conversation. You need people being able to share ideas in a way where it's not just cut and edited and this is how it is, because I think people need to be able to, at some point, we got to be able to know where we're getting what we're getting.
Well, if you flip on the news, you're going to get a short version of a story because there's a time frame. But I mean, I recommend people downloading several different apps from different outlets, and you can see the differences. But AP is a great resource. We use AP. We have AP Wires. I mean, we use that every day, and that's pretty straightforward news. I mean, you're going to get, sometimes it's a little lengthy, but
what happened?
Yeah, and you can take that and you can write your own story from it, and you can put the ad video we have. I mean, I think that a lot of people, they, like you said, they like to get their news from a certain spot, whether it be MSNBC, Fox News, whatever it is, and that's the way they are.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you see it a lot. That's just the way it is. I think I wish it would be different, but also at the same time, when it comes to social media, you're going to get a different thing from than you. I mean, what if, I don't think everyone cares about politics, so they're going to take their news from somewhere else.
Whatever it is, I feel like still we're limited in what we can fully retain. You know, most people, majority of people, even when it comes to politics, they're not voting based upon a full spectrum of, principles.
I think if people care enough, they're going to research it more.
Well, that's the problem, right? People don't care enough.
No, everyone's like me, because I read and watch the news like no other. I mean, that's just, I don't know if that's changed now from before.
What?
People caring less now than before. I think a lot of youth do care now. And I think that they get their news from different outlets, different spots online.
Yeah, but don't you think a lot of it's outrage culture? Like, don't you think a lot of the caring is just being on a bandwagon? Like, I feel like a lot of people, especially you talk about, younger generations
don't
when
know.
you actually dig into the facts of what they know, and when you go and ask somebody who's standing on a street
Well, I'm
corner
hoping
with a
that
sign.
people will look it up. I mean, I don't know. I hope people aren't bandwagoning on things, but I think you have that with anything.
But there would be no outrage culture if people weren't bandwagoning on things.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, me personally, I hope that there's not.
We just need more Joe Moellers in the world. Can we just say that and just leave it at that?
I try to be as fair as possible, right?
Yeah.
No, I feel what you're saying on the bandwagon thing.
Well, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on this whole culture where it's always just trying to stick up with the next hot story?
When it comes to news?
Yeah, well, I guess because I would imagine you think news is important,
Yeah, I mean,
right? And you would say it's important because why is it important that people have news?
informed. I mean, you want to know current events, right? You want to know what's going on to have your own opinion on something.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to change the way something's being run in your city or country, you want to be informed about what's happening down the street or how it's going to impact you. And if I can give you what happened at this certain rally or event or whatever it be, then you can get your opinion and you're able to be informed as a citizen and do your right to vote. I mean, it all kind of goes together.
Right.
And I think news is important in the fact that I have a power to share a story, and that's kind of why I do it. I don't do it to give. I'm a storyteller. That's what I like to say journalists are. Some don't see it that way, but I think that's what it is. And if we're sharing a story about a rally or political event, that's what it is. It's a story. It happened. Hopefully it's just the facts of the story. But yeah, it's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. I think that too, I mean, that's the whole concept of, awareness is the birthplace of change.
Yeah.
And without information, there can be no awareness.
And I guess I wish that more people wanted to be informed, right? And looked at different ways to be informed. Because there's a lot of, like you said, I mean, there's a lot of bias, unfortunately. But I hope, I guess I want people to know that you should look in several different places for information. And maybe dig a little deeper on a topic if you care about it. Because you'll find more information.
I think people are just so distracted.
Yeah.
Like, I think people are just so distracted with life and with distraction itself and trying to keep their mind off of their own lives for the sake of, many people being unhappy with their own lives.
Yeah.
So I think, in order to be, I think at some point there's going to have to be some sort of shift that pushes us to a place where we actually desire change and realize that it's only going to come by us.
Yeah. And I feel like we live in a different world now where like youth are, I feel like they're more active, but it's a different, like you mentioned, they're not watching the news necessarily. So our industry is changing in the fact that we have to reach out to these people in a different way.
Yeah.
There's Instagram, Twitter,
Yeah.
apps. I mean, there's so many different ways. So it's changing in that aspect for sure. And I hope that people, and a lot of people don't, I think, know how to get informed too.
I think I think people also have to learn how to be activists. I think that, a lot of especially the bandwagon thing, a lot of a younger generation get excited about being a part of something that's going to, change the world or change the climate, whether it be political or racial or sexual. And, people stand up for these ideals. But I sometimes wonder in this quest to be activists if we realize what we're doing, because a lot of times activism turns into more finger pointing than actually a desire or hunger for change. And you realize that, guys, I get like marching for the sake of awareness, but a lot of times we end up doing things in meaning to do well that divide us more than bring us together,
I mean, unfortunately, you do see that happening out there. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't take part in that stuff because it's not my job. I mean, I don't, and I see where that it kind of makes people, I mean, I do have a certain sort of platform to do certain things, but in my mind, I'm not there to be doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not.
No, I've heard you say it over and over.
I know that's so hard, and you're probably like, God, I want to say more.
I get it. No, I don't. I just want to know. I think that is there a human side to you that wrestles with that, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think every journalist does. I mean, every journalist at the end of the day has an opinion when they go home.
And then, what role though do we have individually as just civilians to contribute to society? What is that for you? Is it just voting? Is it?
I mean, think about it. Television or media in general can influence people with the stories that are put on. What I like to do is influence people with the fact that, like, I can share this great story about someone or something, and you can, and learn about something else. There's so much information out there, and I have this great opportunity to share a story, and you can take what you want from that. I mean, and it's all about how you tell it too, really, and that's why it's an interesting sort of way or thing that I do in media and TV, everything put together. But I see what you're saying.
Well, I just feel like most people would be baited into the conversation. It's actually one thing that I admire about you.
Well, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
When
Being pulled into the conversation.
About, I mean, people do want your opinion. I mean, sometimes if I feel comfortable with people, I'll talk to them about certain things or coworkers or people.
But you have to be careful because it's also your job to be, public and giving information.
And someone actually told me not too long ago, they're like, I love watching you guys' channel because you guys don't talk about politics. That's not what we're here for. And me growing up, the channel I watched was KTLA down in Los Angeles. They have fun in the mornings and you watch and you don't get that. I think they don't want to wake up and get people's opinions. I mean, that's not what they're there for. I feel like when you wake up and watch the news, you want to get the news, know what's happening in your neighborhood and get information, but you don't, those people who are on your camera aren't there to give you their opinions about politics and different things going on. But sometimes they'll comment on an event, say how great it was. I mean, they'll talk about each other.
Don't you find, though, that some people that say that are the kind of people that just don't like to hear things that are in opposition to what it is that they think?
What do you mean?
People, keep politics out of it. We're not watching it for politics. But if it was somebody that agreed with them and was voicing stances that they also adhered to and participated in, they would be okay with it. I find where our society and our culture is moving towards, we like hearing information that we like.
Yeah.
And
how's that different though?
Well, I don't think that's how you accomplish change. I think that just things that appease and stroke our ego and our views make us feel better about ourselves. That doesn't evoke or cause change. I think at some point we have to hear something that is adverse to the way that I think. We're both going to have to hear things. I have to be willing to sit and have a conversation to hear you out and how we may disagree. You have to be willing to hear my views. I have to hear things that are in opposition to my core fundamental beliefs in order for us to have a discussion about how can we, being different people, still accomplish something good. I'm never going to get to that place of something good, this idealistic society that a lot of people hope exists out there, if all I'm hearing is information that makes me happy. If I'm a Fox News guy, because you talk about watching both. I do the same, just for the scope of it. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that don't. Most people, they choose. I mean, I know guys that are Fox News guys, and they hate everybody on CNN. And vice versa. At what point I think sometimes that we as a society, there's an unhealthy.
And I wish more people would watch other different outlets to get different things. But who's for me to say that you should be doing that? It's not my
you should be doing what?
For someone to change it up, watch different things. You should be watching. You know what I'm saying? Like that's.
Well, I don't know about watching different things, but I think that it's more a fundamental principle of a willingness to listen to things that are different than your scope or beliefs or views for the sake of the thing that we'll complain about, which is not having change.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, and I hopefully people can watch.
People can talk, and I guess the thing is, like, people can talk bad about anything and everything, but if I'm not willing to participate in the conversation, to engage in it and hear both sides, and in a lot of ways, that's what you do, in presenting news. But if we don't find a way to, push people, I think in some way, shape, or form, our society, by contributing indivially to that, it's going to be difficult to have the world. I think a lot of people want. What you're saying,
but as a journalist, you try and do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go cover a rally or a protest, you're going to try and give the opinions of both sides. You want to be equal. I mean, you go to a debate or you have you speak to one city council member, you got to speak to all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you try and you're supposed to at least give all the sides of it. If someone doesn't want to talk, you say they don't want to talk.
Right.
I mean, you tried. What can you do? It happens all the time.
Right.
I mean, on my level, we try and be that way. We try and give all the sides. I totally see what you're saying, and the fact that you'd wish more people would try and do that as well, and that they're so stuck on their ways and watch a certain thing. But I think I don't know if it's necessarily changed from before.
What do you mean?
I think that people like certain channels for certain reasons.
Yeah.
Like my brother, for example, he likes to watch certain channels because their graphics are cool. I mean, there's different, you know what I'm saying? Like there's different reasons people watch.
Well, there's stylistic preferences.
Yeah. So I think it goes in a bunch of different ways. But yeah, I see what you're saying with that.
And then you wonder too. I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't know that is intentionally kept from.
Yeah, I mean, it happens everywhere. Yeah, it's unfortunate. No, I see what you're saying. No, yeah, I mean, you get different things for different channels. Unfortunately, that's the way a lot of it is. But again, on a local level, we try not to be that way.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I think I think it's always interesting to watch things evolve and to wonder where it's going. Where do you think news is going?
Digital. I think a lot of it's going digital. If you look at what we're doing in our newsroom, we've added so many digital jobs. I mean, we have a number of digital. When I got into this industry, there wasn't really such thing as a digital reporter, a digital news anchor, and digital. I mean, there's specific news stations that are on streaming services now. Cheddar. I mean, there's different things that aren't that weren't around when I started this interning 7-8 years ago. So it's changing the fact that there's so many other options for newscasts, and there's a lot more news platforms now than there was before, and you can get your news from a lot more places. Like your phone is like incredible. You can get so many things, and I think that news, and for me, the news anchors, I think it's harder for some more than others, is you got to be willing to be open to trying other things. And the fact that I'd love to do an online newscast, I think it'd be amazing.
Do you think you'll ever get into like documentaries and stuff?
I'm a huge documentary fan.
Because I feel like you're geared really that way.
I love it.
In the storytelling side. You know what I mean?
What did I've watched? I watched an HBO documentary last week.
On what?
Is it Love You Now Die?
I haven't seen it.
It's on the girl that was in the trial for her boyfriend's suicide in Massachusetts. You know that story?
Where she talked him into the suicide, yeah.
It's an interesting documentary. You got to watch it. But I love how it's told. Die. I watch these things, and not only the story is intriguing, but I love how they're told.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to me. And not one way or another, but they're creative.
Yeah.
And how they make things flow. And because I edit my stories.
Yeah.
I shoot a lot of my stories, and so I like to watch all that stuff. And I love I love the long platforms. I like more in-depth stuff.
Right.
So when I can do that, I mean, I was able to get like a national Murrow Award for a story I went to.
What is a Murrow Award?
So a Murrow is it's a prestigious award. Edward R. Murrow, journalist, he is national awards. I mean, you submit your paper, your story, and there's the panel, and they select the winners.
Really?
Yeah. And I got a local win. I won locally, then I went national, and I won national. I was able to go to New York and win for it. But it was a story I did on the border. It was right when the wall was becoming the thing, the big news headline.
Are you for the wall or against the wall?
I have no opinions. I'm opinionless, Nick. But it was what my idea.
Joe, come on, dude.
My idea with it was.
Were you like pro fence? Is it less of a wall, more of a fence?
Some spots there's nothing.
Just yeah.
That was my goal with it, is to go down there and just show what it actually is.
So you just showed what was actually going on in the midst of
how many
all
people
of the...
in this world have actually been in this country have been to the border? Have you?
No. I mean, I've been to the border, like the Mexico border, but I haven't like driven along the border.
Yeah, like most people haven't. And so I was able to go down there. I mean, I set this up like months in advance, got in contact with Border Patrol. I did it all. But anyways, it was in depth. I mean, I was able to show so many things. Each story was 3 minutes. It was 9 minutes in total. So it was cool to be able to do that. And I spent a lot of time on putting those together. I mean, I edited it, I wrote it, I did it all. We brought like 3 cameras down.
Really?
It was fun.
If you could do a documentary or anything, what would it be? What would be the topic?
I don't know what it would be. I see certain things sometimes and I'm like, that'd be a cool story. That'd be a cool
Dude,
story.
I want to do a cult documentary.
What kind of cult?
Just going into cults, understand,
That'd be
like going within them.
But
I'm intrigued by it.
And I'm intrigued with different things because you don't really like that Love You Now Die, which was interesting, is they gave the whole backstory. Not everybody was in that courtroom, but they talk about, I mean, antidepressants and how they were both on that and that guy. We all have a perception of what's in the news because they have 1.5 minutes to tell a story. Yeah. And so you look into things more and you kind of get more information and you start thinking more.
Yeah.
And you're like, dang, like you didn't know this.
I think that's the thing that fascinates me about cults is how one human could have so much power over another human.
So much influence. Yeah.
Influence, yeah.
Yeah.
That literally, I mean, families, men with wives and children.
And you find it interesting in the fact that you just kind of want to know what they're thinking. Or
what
know,
is their thought process?
Yeah,
how did you get here?
How did this come about? And I think that's such a cool thing with journalists and their storytellers. And you have a big job. You get to go share this story that probably wouldn't be shared.
Yeah. Did you ever see Murder Mountain?
No.
Murder Mountain was like it's about up past Mendocino County area, Northern California. There's like this community where basically there's this vigilante justice uprising within the marijuana farmers that live up there that have these immigrant people come in to trim. In the documentary, they refer to them as trimmigrants, and they would come in from these different countries, and these pot farmers would hire them to work their crop. But then in this one scenario, rather than pay the guy that they hired in, they just kill him off. But he doesn't. But they don't have family because all their family is overseas. So there's no way for them to actually be in touch or their family to be able to find them. And so it's this behind the scenes of the people and how this whole thing.
I'll have to watch that. I haven't seen that one.
Really, really interesting.
I love learning of those. I always am skimming like Netflix and HBO.
Well, it's weird.
Looking for different documentaries.
The weird thing to me is it's stuff that's happening. Like, I mean, basically next door. You know, it's not. This is not stuff that happened decades ago.
It's happening now,
which is weird.
Yeah.
You know, you think about these. I mean, I think about these crazy stories about abductions, and to think about you were in the house next door to somebody who had somebody prisoner in their home. Like you hear these type of docu stories, and it's just bizarre.
And there's some shows that are kind of like that. I was watching a show about what it's like in a Russian prison. Like there's just interesting things out there, and there's so much of it. I'd love to do that stuff down the line. And there's certain people
Why don't you do it now?
Well, just because of time constraints and like with my schedule. I mean,
you
when am I going to do it?
7?
Yeah, when am I going to go do it?
Wake up
2
at
o'clock
2?
when everyone's working. I mean, it truly is hard on this shift, and everyone should feel for their morning anchor news people. Down the line, I'd love to do more of that. And it's really cool when you work with someone. I mean, there's a couple of people here I was able to work with, and now they're in different markets, but they're passionate about it too. So when you find a cool team, people to work with, it makes it a lot of fun. And there are certain jobs out there with this reporters can go do that more type of work. So maybe down the line, you never know.
Yeah,
where it takes you. So
if you don't have opinions, what do you talk about when you're hanging out with your friends?
I mean, we have opinions.
So but do you small talk? Are you just always small talk?
We small talk. We talk about politics. We talk about everything.
You do?
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it.
Just not on a podcast.
No.
So if you want to know,
I don't
Joe
talk
Moeller's
about it a
views,
lot.
Yeah, they just need to get to
even
know
in
you.
public. I won't really bring it up.
It's not your thing.
No, and
I think that's what I appreciate about you, though.
Yeah.
There's an authenticity about you where you're just cool with this is where you know your role, you know what you bring, you know what you contribute, and you protect that. I wish more people were like that because I think we miss out on a lot by not being that way.
And I think it'd be, and I do see it in my industry. Some people in news aren't. I mean, but maybe that's what they see. Like you mentioned, they see themselves as having this platform to influence people, which that's them. That's not me. And I know maybe some stations like that, some don't.
Well, I would imagine too the pressure to use your platform just from a fundamental standpoint. I feel like I gotta fit a mold, or I feel the pressure of people that I need to say something.
If I'm using my platform for anything, I like to help people.
Yeah.
There's someone who was killed, and they have a GoFundMe. I'd love to share that on my page. There's a dog that was rescued that has no home. They're trying to save. Like I've shared so many of those that people find a dog and they need money to buy it food or something. I like to help.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of a different way to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do a lot. You can help out, but the opinion thing is not what I'm here to do.
Yeah. What has news taught you the most?
What has news taught me the most?
What have you learned? What have you learned the most in this?
Everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
And I think someone you drive by on the street, you know, they have their own story. And I love that. I mean, a good reporter, in my opinion, I guess you could say, can make a good story of anything. Anything's a story as long as you make a good one.
What makes you passionate about story? That whole idea.
I don't know, because I think that you come across, let's say a small town, there's somebody out of water, or there's somebody there's so many stories that I've covered that I find so interesting that you just, without me being in that town at that time, the story wouldn't have been shared. Mm-hmm. And so you have this platform to share these interesting stories. And I feel like a lot of people be like, wow, that's interesting. Or I never knew that. Like you mentioned, like you don't know these things that happen in your backyard. And that's what I like about it. And it showed me that everyone does have a story. Is that story going to make the news? Maybe that's another time. That's another whole topic. But
well, it really is too. And I think that my cousin started a nonprofit. He was on the podcast before. But his whole thing is this idea of, there's a lot of stories out there to be told that aren't being told, and if we could get better at telling stories beyond just what is, outrage culture or just stuff that's going to cause hype and stimulate people's, emotions, but actually stories that matter, that there's a lot of, for as much bad as happening in the world, there's a lot of good, and there's a lot of people that, if there is bad, that need help. And if we could tell those stories, I mean, what could that do?
Yeah, and I think there's places you can go to find more stories. Like there's certain reporters I follow, that's all they do. Yeah, these
and hopefully maybe the evolution will force that.
I think
the fact that
we're going more digital, you do see more. You do see more of that. I would say more heartwarming stuff online than you do on the newscast, and I like that. It's different on Instagram. You'll see different unique stories because those things play on Instagram. I mean, they might not be playing on air. I think you will see more of that, and I think that's. I hope so. Yeah. There's certain reporters that I follow around the country that I would specifically look up because that's what they do.
Yeah, it's how they present things.
Oh yeah, and it's super interesting to me.
Social. It's just a weird age to live in. And we've for sure not seen the last of it. It's going to continue to.
It's a lot of people call it the digital revolution.
I wonder if we'll create some sort of. Do you think in the future we'll create some sort of, well, maybe not, but safeguards for ways of verifying things? Because a lot of even those stories about injustice or stuff, people. It's funny sometimes you'll get stuff that catches like wildfire, and you hear a week later, oh, that wasn't true or that wasn't real. What was that thing on YouTube with like kids videos? Or that thing, and everybody was freaking out because there was some witch or something like in the middle of the videos, like telling kids to do something, and then like it turns out that it wasn't real, it was a hoax. But everybody for a day was like, "Don't let your kids watch YouTube." Do you remember that? You probably covered the story, Joe. Come on.
No, I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember the details surrounding.
No, but I mean, there was like, what was it? It was what was that creature's name? Huh?
Asking the kids to hurt themselves.
Yeah, but what was Momo? Put Momo up. You don't remember Momo?
No.
I'm sure you covered it. It was like huge.
When was this?
What was it? 2 years ago? Last year? It's where kids were watching. It was like pop up in the middle of the videos and tell kids to hurt themselves.
I think I vaguely remember this.
And it was it was everywhere. Remember this character?
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And then it ended up being that Momo. It wasn't real, right? Yeah. But
well,
it was like.
I mean, unfortunately, that does happen. I mean, things get put in the news that aren't true sometimes, and.
But Joe,
it happens.
That should not.
No, and I totally. I'm not saying it happens here, but
that's part of the. Well, I'm sure it happens everywhere. Everybody covered this story.
Yeah.
Parents
who stop freaking out over Momo. I mean, I can tell you that
TikTok though.
There's a lot of conversation about this all the time. I mean, there's different. I mean, there's a story about the girl who said that her hair was cut by 3 boys and never happened. Last week, it made headlines.
Well,
I mean, it never happened. She made it up. I mean, that you try and verify things. I mean,
the guy from Empire, same thing, right? You covered that story.
That's
and then
crazy.
It's like everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, and then it's okay, well.
But if
do you guys say you're sorry when you?
I mean, if they retract things, I mean, certain people will.
So you don't say you're sorry, you just retract.
I mean, you say we're correcting the story we aired yesterday or something. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
But another thing, you go with what. Sometimes the information you're given, I mean, you're crediting them. Please tell us this happened.
Yeah.
Please tell us they're looking for a kidnapping suspect.
Right.
An hour later, you learn this kidnapping never even happened. So you're not. I didn't make the story up. Yeah. I didn't make it up.
Did you cover the Vegas shooting?
Yeah, because I had several friends there, and so
that one is still intriguing to me. Mm-hmm. I think it's just intriguing to me in a place where there's probably more cameras in any other place ever.
Yeah. And
the fact that there's so much like missing footage of this guy and how things got into his room and how it all happened. It just seemed like there's a lot of question marks.
I mean, we're never going to know all the answers to that. I mean,
Yeah, but that's also a cop-out statement. We're never going to know all the answers in a place where, I mean, there's cameras literally every
and there's still
angle.
people. I mean, there's still investigators and reporters looking into it. There's still, I mean, it's going to.
But I think that's what intrigues me, that we can read a license plate from space. You know what I mean? But we can't figure out some of these things. Those are I don't know. It's just interesting.
No, I feel you on it. It is interesting,
and you can only go with the information that you're given, and you're only given so much.
Especially in a market like this. I mean, you're given the information from the officials, and that's what you're tough. I mean, what else how much more verification can you get?
Yeah.
Right? You can't talk to witnesses sometimes. So you just take what.
Unless you start doing documentaries and Joe Moeller goes on the road.
But then you're running into deadlines. I mean, and not saying that you should run with something that's not true, but I'm saying that these people, when they get information, they're getting it from officials. The news isn't there to make stuff up. We don't make stuff up. I mean, that's not what they're supposed to be doing.
I don't think you are either.
Yeah.
And that's why I think you guys get the bad rap. But I do think that people that are giving you the information sometimes make stuff up.
I don't think when you watch the news, I mean, they aren't making
but it's
stories up.
No,
I hope not.
but how you say what you say determines and distinguishes the narrative that we're actually discussing.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I mean, that's just like a part of it. It's the whole story thing, right? How you tell a story determines how a person interprets that story.
Yeah,
and we'd be silly to not think that there's not time. I mean, it's especially within the context of politics. I mean, as far as information that is released politically, sometimes that information is powerful. Yeah. That's why what you do is so huge, because it has the ability to sway a nation's focus.
Yeah, you have that ability. Again, I'm not there to do that.
Well, you're not doing it, but somebody's doing it. Yeah. You're the face of it.
You see it all there all the time. I mean, it's unfortunate. I think people have they can choose where they get their information from, and like you mentioned, they're so accustomed to certain things, and that's what they do. I mean,
yeah.
I hope that people can get information from multiple places, and that would be my only recommendation for people: is get it from how many places. If you find something interesting, don't be afraid to look it up.
Yeah.
I mean, Google, you'll find a bunch of stuff.
Is Google right though?
I mean, Google, everything's on Google.
Wikipedia pages.
Don't follow Wikipedia. I mean, that's the one. Don't. I mean, it's not. You can go to it for like some basic information, but you don't. Anybody can put anything on Wikipedia. So
I feel like that's sometimes about anything online. You read it, you could read in 5 minutes. You could read 5 different blogs with 5 different opinions.
And there are those fake news sites out there for sure. And
or whatever algorithm drove up that article to the top of the list. Most people aren't going 5 pages deep into Google to get their information.
No. I mean, so my opinion, my suggestion to people is be look at
not opinion, because you don't have those.
I don't have opinions.
They don't exist.
They don't exist for me. They're not real. Opinionless.
We could talk forever. Let's wrap up our time together by give me your favorite news blooper. I got mine right now. Video. You're gonna pull it up. You ready?
Yeah, you pull this one up first, and I'll think of mine.
Mine is the grapes lady. The great lady that falls off while doing the news story.
Oh, I just watched that not too long ago.
Dude, that's a classic though. You can't watch that. That one's pretty good.
I'm trying to think of the other. I mean, there's some good ones out there.
There's some funny ones to come full circle. There's some really good ones out there.
I love the one where there's the Wendy Birch. I actually knew her in LA, but she's standing there, and the guy in the mask pops up behind her.
Which one? The guy with the mask?
Yeah, he pops up behind her, and she just freaks out. We can pull it up after here.
Dude, this is my favorite.
These are filled with Chamberson grapes, and the winner this Saturday, who's stumped music, eating international foods, having wine tours and tasting, vineyard tours, seminars, arts and crafts.
They're stomping grapes barefoot.
I know.
Oh, tried to be funny and then fell.
This went viral.
Well, how could it not? She fell
2 million
like 3
views.
feet.
My gosh,
3 feet on her face.
That poor lady.
At least you've never had it that bad. You know what I mean?
I've never done that. That's a little scary. No, I
have you ever got your tongue tangled and said something really crazy?
Like wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it happened. But yeah, of course. Every news person has. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Like,
but you don't remember any.
Or like, I mean, there's a number. Okay, so when you're tired, sometimes there'd be a number in the prompter, and they're like, I just said the wrong number.
Have you seen the one preacher that is talking and he's preaching and he's talking about in the Bible how Lot, and he's trying to say how he chose to go pitch his tent but he got his tongue messed up, and he said he chose to go pinch his tits.
Oh, there's a bunch of that stuff.
Dude, like those kinds of things, I don't know why, but they make me laugh so hard
Yeah, and
when
they try to be
somebody
serious.
because they know what they're saying and their face looks like they know what they're saying, but then
Yeah.
they
And you
don't.
I was like, oh, it could
You
have been
haven't
any of
had
us.
those?
It could have been any of us. There's been some close calls for sure. I'm like,
That's the
that
only
was-
reason I watch you on TV is just
See when I mess
just
up?
to see when you mess up.
Oh, yeah, no,
and then
I would
just
too.
send you something
So
like
when,
great
like,
job this morning.
That's what my coanchor, like when we each other mess up. Like, we can't look at each other because we know the other person's laughing. Like it's so hard for us, but we have such a great time, and I think that's a big part of this industry. If you're enjoying it, then it's so much easier.
Yeah.
And if you're good with good people who are, like it as well, your life's gonna be a lot easier. With anything, really, right?
Yeah.
Surround yourself with good people.
Do you have like a signing off phrase like Seacrest out? Do you have something you do?
But we have like a
I feel like you
pattern.
need something like that.
We have like a pattern. Like if I usually say like, thanks for joining us, blah, 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 and then she'll say, see you tomorrow. But like one of us messes that up, but it's all messed up.
It throws it all off.
Yeah. Like if she's gone and I have to say the whole thing, I feel like it gives me anxiety.
Because sometimes you have to carry the show by yourself.
Yeah. Like today I anchored the noon or the midday show by myself. And so, but like I have to think about, okay, the ending's coming up. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? Because you're so used to your routine that if it's changed, like you can mess you
wing
up.
it.
Yeah. Or you like say something awkward and then the wrap the show, you're like, what? I'm so dumb.
Yeah.
Like, what did I just say? No, yeah, it happens all the time.
Well, dude, I appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Thanks
fun.
for coming
Yeah.
and hanging out. And anytime you just get an urge to share some opinion,
Oh yeah, I'll be
got
sure
my
to call
number.
you.
You know who to call.
I'll be sure to call you. I'll give you my opinion on news bloopers. No, I'm just kidding.
All day, every day.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you letting me come by. This is fun.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.